Bonjour, everybody. Well, we've had a very exciting session this morning and this afternoon, and I'm sure it's going to continue in my panel here. I was quite interested to see that the title of the panel is Digital Interventions and Innovation. I was wondering why the organizers didn't use the word digital initiatives or digital technology. Intervention, I suppose, used to intervene in our physical world. So I remember, okay, this will probably give away my age, in the 90s, when we first did our website for the museum, and it was a big thing. Moving on, I think 30 years later, having a museum having a website it's basic, and we're very interested to hear the various institutions and projects that have been done by our panelists this afternoon. So the first speaker, Mrs. Bénédicte Lefebvre, as the MC has mentioned, she's the General Director of the Center for National Monuments, which is an agency that looks after about 100 historical sites, including the Arc de Triomphe. And she has many years of experience in communication agency. I believe also in contemporary art and cinema. So without further ado, let's invite her to speak on her presentation, An Image is Worth 1,000 Words.
So, thank you very much. I hope that you seen better what is the National Monument Agency with that film. So I can go quite fast on this part of my exposé. What is very important for us, it's to manage very different types of monuments. It goes from Neolithic, like Karnak, through Renaissance, as Hazelrideau Castle, in Middle Age, like Castle of Carcassonne, or even a much more recent period, as La Villa Cavrois in the north of France, which was achieved in 1932. So the National Monument Agency is the largest cultural tour operator. New figure, because I think that in the film it was wrong figure. In new figure, the CMN is 130 million euro annual budget. It is 65 ongoing restoration work for 100 monuments and more than 9 million visitors last year. We have our own publishing house presenting more than 600 catalogs and offer each year more than 400 cultural events. The National Monument Agency is based on experimentation. This policy started actually in 2014 with the creation of a department dedicated to innovation. Its mission, experiment. To do this was the first necessary to build relationship with all the players in the digital world, in order to design applications for different types, different uses, different environments, using the richness of network of monuments. During 3 years, more than 15 experiments were conducted with public and private partners, startups, but also with Google, free or paid, fixed or mobile. In total, more than half of the national monuments have benefited from digital innovation. I choose to present 3 types of innovation. First, mobile apps to learn or to save time. So the first is a very common one, a video game for children. On the occasion of 500 years of the advent of Francis I, video games allow children to discover the national monument related to Francis I in a fun and educational way. This game is downloaded from Apple Store or Google Play. 2 heroes are the heart of the scenario based on historical facts: King Francis and Étincelle, his salamander. The children will thus live the adventure of a destiny that has changed France through the monuments of our collection. And it's meeting with historical figures such as Leonardo da Vinci or Le Chevalier Bayard, who live in the place visited. To progress in the adventure, players will perform a succession of quests, collect objects from time, and solve puzzles in different tables to advance and discover the monument. Second, a virtual waiting line experimentation on Notre Dame. The mobile apps allow visitors to get a digital ticket for the placed equipment with the system. Public can avoid having to physically queue up by giving the visitor an estimated waiting time. This system allows tourists to enjoy their free time instead of standing in the queue. Second part, robots in service of accessibility policy. That's not the good. Okay. I present you Norio. Norio. Designed to travel in the room of the first floor on Warren Castle, Norio robots allow visitors with a motor disability to decide themselves condition to their visit, which also distant. Is it simple and autonomous? From the cockpit installed on the ground floor of the castle, visitors use a computer mouse or joystick to direct the mobile robot through the spaces where Renaissance art from 17th century and today rub shoulders. Each visitor pillar receives live and audio and video transmission HD of its path and can himself communicate via the robot with the people traveling in the same place, whether friends or tourists, with guided Warren Castle. At the Villa Kerylos in the south, we have a virtual guide tour from a remote location this time with Beam, a telepresence robot. This robot allowed children from Lions Hospital 600 kilometers away to follow a guided tour. I go far. Augmented reality. For us, it's very important to have augmented reality disposal to help people to understand the past. Yes, one image is worth than 1,000 words. Here you have Cluny Abbey, and this is an example of augmented reality for visitors see the imaging and understand the right way. That was the building change over the time, and we see the tower that have disappeared, and the state here is the state at the Middle Age. Here it's at Villa Cavrois. This table offered the visitor its furnished state of 1932, thanks to 3D resolution. Here it's in Paris, the conciergerie. The use of the place had changed a lot, and the time palace of the king, the conciergerie was transformed in prison, where she notably welcomed Queen Marie Antoinette during the Revolution. In 1914, the conciergerie was transferred into the National Monument and opened the public since. Thanks to augmented reality and geolocalization, we have developed a system which allow people to see how it was in the Middle Age and to see the space who are not accessible. With this system, we allow people also to recreate the environment at the Middle Age. This application extended to the neighborhood in order to recreate Paris at the chosen time. Many opportunities are very important for us to help people to understand how was the monument state, but there is only one method. We are absolutely founded to find, based on scientist approach, to identify the sources, to find a common ground, and then to create the image. That's for a single ambition single ambition to connect people each other. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benedette. Very fascinating. Okay, our next speaker, Michelle Antoine. She's the Director of Exhibitions at Universcience. which is the Lazarus Science Center in Paris. Before she joined, she was with the Museum of Natural Sciences in Brussels, and before that in Quebec doing exhibitions. Her talk will be on digital culture, a trigger for science centers transformation.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here in this wonderful panel. First, few words about Universcience. Universcience is an umbrella name for two very well-known institutions, Palais de la Découverte, Palace of Discovery, a very old lady, 80 years old, and Cité des Sciences et de l'Industrie, City of Science and Industry. Here, two pictures of the site. We host around 3 million visitors a year, to give you the few figures, and we are the 5th most visited cultural site in France. So, when indeed I have to confess something, we were listening to all the presentation, Benedict and I, and we were modifying our text all the morning because we said, okay, we are all on the same line. Anyway, we are all asking the same questions. So I will try to find some new hook to make my presentation. But the first hook is, of course, our public. In Universcience, I mean, as in most science centers, our visitors are very young. In Palace of Discovery, 50% of our visitors are under 18 years old, which means that they are truly digital natives. They were born after the smartphone was created, which make a difference for sure. And then, obviously, they have another relation to information. They can be simultaneously in different places. They are listening to their teacher, they are answering their SMS, and they are trying to find new information in order to trap the teacher by asking a question. So that means that we have a different public. And another no, that will be next one. So, I mean, my public, our public, is really merged in a digital culture. By digital culture, I'm not only targeting tools, but I'm also targeting practice. Talking about tools, I'm speaking about internet or video games or all the technologies we have. But digital culture also changed a lot in the terms we are co-constructing, co-building things more than before. The fact that we have changed our mode of sociability and that we emphasis open sources, open data sharing. Both have to be taken into account. So that means that we need to transform the science center such a way that it becomes more potent and that it can reach the expectation of our visitors. We also have to have in mind that digital culture has changed the relation to reference document and to the authority of the knowledge, the authority of the museum. They have so many possibilities to find information around them that we are not the only provider. We need to rethink our role in this society by providing another kind of experience. So, in Universcience, this digital culture has forced us to change in depth. Of course, we have another challenge. We are a science museum. We are a museum showing innovation, showing technological innovation. So that means that we need to promote, to show, to explain, to socialize new technologies. But it's nearly kind of impossible task. I very often feel myself like the Red Queen race, in the Red Queen race in Alice in Wonderland. You know, you are always behind because technologies are moving so fast that you cannot follow. But we are doing our best, trying at least. So, for us, digital culture is at the same time a topic, a tool, I mean, an innovative media, and a world to discover. So first, of course, it's a topic. In Universcience, we are talking about digital science, about coding. So here you have a picture of our new exhibition. It opened yesterday. I couldn't be there because I was here, just arriving. But it's a brand new exhibition about coding. We also have some workshop developed together with Lego in order to teach very young people to code, not to be afraid. It's very, very important in the world of tomorrow to teach how you will be able to code, because everybody will have to interfere in this open data world in order to be able to use all data by coding better. So we also have another thing which is quite important, is our game lab. We already have a teaser. We are going to open a full version of this game lab. It's also a very important aspect of all this digital world, because it's an industry, but it's also a way to learn our kind of algorithm and all the digital thinking, which is quite new and not well taught at least in France, in our schools. We also use digital media to, how to say that, to push the boundaries of interaction a bit further. We, for instance, are developing an embarked mediation tool. This tool is a geolocated tool, so we know at every minute where the visitor is, and we can push content using augmented reality for instance, to add content to their visit. We are also going to recommend the next entertainment they can have in the space by using the same kind of things already shown by the library. So we know what they have seen before in the minutes before, and we can propose new experiment to them. In this, we are going to use, and it's not done yet, we are going to use this tool as a chat tool in some exhibition. Of course, this is not that easy, because very often you feel it's kind of artificial thing. And this forces us in exhibition to transform the way we are creating exhibition. You cannot have your exhibition and then you had your mediation tool. In this case, you really need to use a chat, for instance. You need to develop the exhibition together with the mediation tool. That's what we are going to do in an exhibition about spying. We are also, and it's kind of catalogue of what we do, sorry for this, we are using augmented reality. In this case, it was an exhibition about a comic strip, Valérian and Laureline, maybe you know, two space agents. And indeed, with your mobile phone, you could find a creature flying in the exhibition. So it added a level to the experience. But I want to go fast and bring this thing, because it will be kind of answer to Agatha. We have a planetarium in our science center, and we had a problem. The problem is that if we want to be accessible, we will, in this case, we have to add a sign language in the image of the space, which is kind of disturbing for the rest of the audience. And we use kind of Google Glasses, not those ones, not those they used in the Grand Palais, but we are developing that ourselves, so that you have, as augmented reality in your glass, you have the sign language, while the other people in the audience have their own experience. And we really believe it will improve the experience. I don't have a lot of time left, so I am going to go very fast on this, which is the video mapping we will use at the Palais de la Découverte after the renewing of it, because it will become like the right-hand picture, because it will be restored like this, but we want to keep the memory of the building, and the only way to keep it is to have this video mapping projected quite regularly in the space, so that we can remember how it was in 1937, the year of creation of this institution. A few words, data visualization. If there are any questions, I think it's a good use of big data is really to transfer it in a very powerful image. And I point this one because this exhibition, Urban Transformation, will be at the Singapore Science Museum late this year. So we have a good cooperation with them for years. And then, last word, I want to point that digital culture is not only virtual. Using digital tool in Fab Labs, you can also redevelop practice and reconciliate doing and thinking by having those tools used to build real objects. Thank you.
Really fascinating. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions later on. But we'll go to the next speaker. Of course, Sean Wong, my ex-colleague, is the Assistant Director leading the digital team and the digital transformation at the National Heritage Board. And he'll be talking about upsizing a collections website, Roots.sg. Sean, please.
Sorry, can you hear me? Yes, okay, thanks. Yep, okay, yeah, thanks. Okay, good afternoon, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. I'm privileged to be able to stand here today to share with you about a project that is a key driver in the National Heritage Board's digital engagement strategy. Having been involved in this project right from the inception, conceptualizing it, and still operating it and trying to improve it today, this is a project that's very close to my heart. Allow me to bring you back to the year 2007. 2007 marked the launch of Singapore Collections Online. It was our very first attempt to digitize our national collection. So we brought together, it was the first time we brought together a team of researchers, catalogers and photographers to work on our national collection to start working on displaying them online. It really marked the start of our digitization journey. And I need to qualify that cataloging continues to be an ongoing process where we devote our efforts to improve the presentation of our national collection. Fast forward to 2014. So consider the environment that year. National Heritage Board started out as being the custodian of the national collection and managing the museums where the collections are presented. Our role had then evolved to gazetting national monuments, 72 national monuments to date, marking heritage trails, 17 heritage trails to date, marking historic sites and producing more and more research. Then there was greater demand for our heritage resources, evidence from our websites, and also we were actively using social media to push our content and programs out to the public. But then we only had Singapore Collections Online, which showcased the national collection. So you would imagine then the social media conversation would go like this. Hey, here's a nice picture from the collection. You can view it on the website, but this is pretty much what we have about it. When we launched a trail, it was a bit embarrassing when all we could do was provide a PDF download of the trail booklet, when at that time people had already expected that mapping capabilities, geospatial information to be all available and provided for you. So we looked at it and thought, since we do all this, we are custodians of the national collection, we manage the museums where they are presented, we gazette national monuments and mark historic sites and produce research. Can't this all come together? At many times, pitching this idea to various colleagues made me feel like a mad scientist, and I still feel like that today because trying to pull it off then seemed like an insurmountable task. Because given this idea, how could we really bring seemingly disparate resources together? And really, what we wanted to do was to provide an experience that will be enjoyable, provide endless discovery and appreciation of Singapore's heritage. Could we really do that? So challenges, as shared earlier on, not all the resources were digitized. They existed in various forms. While the collections were photographed, As shared, some trails were in PDFs, some other information existed in Word documents over the place. At that point, considering I had probably about 12 trails then, and maybe about 200, 300 locations, we didn't have the geo coordinates for them, so there was no way to present it on a map. So it was really a mad rush against time. Funding was there, something we had to overcome. And the thing is, our challenge and in many of our pitches was to achieve intelligent serendipitous discovery, really the Amazon-like experience, the recommendation engine. Could we pull it off in 7 months? So we reached out to our dear colleagues from the National Library Board. I shared earlier, Siang Hok's, the National Library has really made progress in terms of leaps and bounds in terms of linked data, honestly, not big data, but specifically we're talking about linked data in this aspect. So we came to them and posed them our problem. We said, yeah, how do I bring all these different resources together? Is there a way I can quickly do it given my 7-month development timeline? They shared with us the idea of linked data. Then we thought, okay, we might not be that ready yet, but what's the next best thing you have? They said, okay, we have this way by which we catalog Singapore heritage resources. Perhaps it could work for you. So we actually reviewed I think then it was maybe 2,000 plus entries of subjects on Singapore heritage, and we thought, hey, maybe some of these could work for us. So we manually tagged about 1,000 resources to test whether it could actually work and present related information to our audiences. We managed to pull Roots off. It went into beta in, it was launched in beta in December 2015, and publicly launched in April 2016. Now, if you bear with me, I'll just switch over to give you a quick run through of the site where it is right now in terms of key functionalities, as well as after that moving on to what we intend to do further with the National Library Board. Sorry, give me a while. Okay, I think this is the best I can go. Give me a moment. Okay. Okay, right on the homepage, you see the various sort of resources we have. We thought stories was a good way to bring together our various resources. I'll explain to you why later on. So our national monuments, our trails, our national collection, publications, museums are all mentioned up front. There's various ways of browsing. But let me bring you through some examples. So we had actually approached NLB on how to possibly link together disparate resources. So stories, we thought by telling thematic stories to bring together different resources would be a good approach. So in this article, this is a typical presentation of how we share stories. So you have information on Heritage Trail. These photos are friends from archives. This is a collection of currency that we have in our national collection of the Japanese banana money den. And you see on the bottom, this is where the taxonomy that NLB kindly shared with us actually kicked into action. Related stories on World War II people, World War II resources from. So this is the trail. This would be actually a video that we produced. So we actually forced the Amazon-like discovery in this aspect to try and present it on the site. Okay, so the next example would be that of, let me share with you how we present our collections now. So when you come to the collections page, you see an aggregated suggestions of our collections that you can explore. This example of the Rolleiflex camera, and clicking on it, get a bigger detail of the image, synopsis, accession details and all that. Key information for collections, but we take this conversation further. So we bring out our social media, we share with them the photo of it, a short synopsis. In this case, this commenter actually worked at the factory in Singapore, shared about his experience there, also shared that although he has a 40% discount, it was still quite pricey for him then. Okay, the next example is Mount Warlick, sorry. Okay, this is a key artifact for us because it provides us insight into the communities as well as the building in Singapore then. The thing is, when we learned that this artifact would be traveling from the National Museum to Asian Civilizations Museum for Port Cities exhibition, we grabbed hold of the curators and told them to talk more about the painting and its significance to us. So this is the video, and again, it spurred conversation. This one was about a guy who actually worked around the area in modern-day Singapore and shared his experience about the Tanjong Pagar area. Okay, another key feature is trails. National Heritage Board has marked 17 trails to date. You would see there are 100 trails in this list. These are largely contributed by community and partners. So remember earlier I mentioned that we weren't able to get geo coordinates, so Roots actually allows us to present the points on the trail as well as more information, because if you see like Google Map, One Map, they probably give you a title and a short synopsis. We want to give people more, so clicking on the point brings you to more information about the place as well as related content. So that's it for the trail. Okay, this is my next example. Let me toggle back to the presentation. Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, so when the site was launched, so the intervention here was really, remember I really had a problem having a good resource site to point people to when I talked about it on social media. Beyond that, it actually we had a response from the Straits Times, someone who wrote in. The newspapers said, the online forum said that it's easier for all to learn about heritage. Interestingly, also pointed out that actually it's our responsibility to find out more as well. I mean, users' responsibility as well. The internal feedback. This one was really heartening to hear from an education and community outreach colleague who was developing a trail on Bedok, a part of eastern part of Singapore. They said that with these resources all aggregated together, it was easier for him to find related content to put into his trail booklets. The example on the right brought a tear to my eye because it was during a presentation halfway. My teacher friend messaged me using your website to teach. Okay, having shared all of that, so really, it's not clearly evident that this website is really still evolving. It's still a work in progress in many ways because we are introducing enhancements to tend to what the public, to provide the public what they want and need. So maybe I can expand a bit on the linked data example. So this actually, sorry. Okay, this was actually a breakthrough for us that happened just about 2 weeks back. So the thing is, you see all the work we've done with the National Library Board, so in the space of linked data. Really to explain it in as layman's term as possible, linked data is a way of publishing your resources such that it's machine readable, usable, and relationships can be developed from it. You can also use it to collaborate with partners. In Europe, Europeana is probably the best example of this. It aggregates about 60 million, last I checked, artifacts across museums. So this is our little pilot with the National Library Board. So this okay. This is our national monument, Cathay building. It's important to us in terms of architectural, war, as well as entertainment history. So what we are now able to do with the help of our friends from the National Library Board, you see this Explore Further section, what it does is it actually calls the National Library Board's databases on events, people, places, as well as organizations related to the article. Clicking on it will open up the related resource, so Lokwanto of Cathay organizations, in this case World War II related to the monument. So clicking on, the thing is when this page loads, it queries NLB's entity page, which provides us links to the resources that NLB has, because we acknowledge NLB in some cases will have more resources on a certain subject than us, so why not share it with the public as well? So it's really it's a decent pilot in terms of articulating how linked data can work for us. So let me toggle back, sorry. Yeah, okay, so the example of linked data. So data analytics, how we see it working for us. So we look at how people use our resources to understand and develop potential personas of users that we can create content to market them, for marketing to them. In terms of CRM, the thing is with structured content, we are then able to push related, timely and relevant to our users at opportune times to engage them along their customer journey with us. Okay, that's all I have for my slides. Thank you all for your time today.
Okay, so questions from the floor? Anyone? Before we go to Pigeonhole? No? Okay, maybe they'll warm up. Okay, maybe I'll take the top question, which is something that we will all like to ask, because all the presentations were really about digital, the use of digital technology in the engagement or the kind of services that you are doing for the audience. Oops, hang on. So but innovation is not really about the use, necessarily about the use of technology. And so I think the audience would like to find out, hang on, let me put this active, whether you have any examples to show where innovation is not, innovation has taken place that does not necessarily uses technology, or there's minimal technology used. Anyone like to share?
If I may share an example, we have to understand that innovation, we should consider also using it to overcome problems. It does not always entail digital, because innovation in terms of solving solutions that we face at work. For example, there was a simple pilot we tried. Would a gallery guide activity sheet for teachers work better, or just a printed one provided to them? So we actually tested them, walked them through the step, and they realized, if I refer, sometimes in the gallery it might be a bit too dark also. Then they realized that if actually they read it beforehand and could prepare their own notes, it actually aided them. So these are some cases whereby it's really very much looking at solving the business process issue and not immediately thinking, hey, technology is the way to go. So that's one example I've personally encountered and tried out.
I could give some example, because we are quite used having exhibition for children. And for instance, we are going to develop with RMN Art and Science Children Gallery. Of course, we won't use a lot of technologies, because we will have hands-on activities. And innovation comes from the fact that we are going to bring together art and science, not the way it is done here in Singapore, but really in a way where a real piece of art will be presented, and a real hands-on activity like a science center will be brought together, which will be new. So yes, it's possible to innovate without technology, but I want to be a bit provocative as an answer to this. Bringing technology or thinking technology as a trigger for innovation doesn't prevent you from thinking another way. So I think it's really a question of integration of the different aspects, and we have to take into consideration our audience. Our audience is really merged in this, in the world, in this technological world. So I think we need to be more inclusive in terms of including the technology together with other type of activities. So it's not or, it's an and for me.
Yes, I agree.
No, that's a part of social innovation too. It's a way to bring public, for example, disability with disability or social far from culture in our site. So innovation is also a way of thinking and a way of seeing the world in another point of view. So that's very important.
Okay, so actually, kind of related to this topic about innovation not necessarily being tied to technology, and they were just wondering, which Benedict has mentioned, that there are probably challenges in implementing the digital innovations in your organizations, and how do you come about? Because if, for example, Benedict, you mentioned about how the scientific research of the item is important, presumably that's done by your curators, would they necessarily have the kind of skills to translate that into a digital form? I mean, how do you work in your organization? How is work done to bring out the sort of digital manifestations of the heritage?
We organize the connection between a little team and then all the staff to share the ambition and then to share the way of doing. We also have an incubator, and we have a startup. We are working with us, and we experiment together. That's a process more than something which can buy. We have a research and a process together.
We also have an incubator, but I take another challenge. I think art, of course, as a science museum, we are quite used to be in contact with those technologies, but the question is, at the same time, the obsolescence is so quick, we can't follow the rhythm of obsolescence. So when we develop something, we usually 6 months later, we need to redevelop, in order to be able to follow the rhythm. And of course the money, because we are doing too many different things, and we cannot compete with commercial development, for instance in video games or virtual reality. They put so much money in one thing, so it's excellent, and we are always a bit low in comparison. So I would say technologies and money are challenges.
Okay, for us, the challenges is not everyone understands wireframes. So it's really important to develop small prototypes that people can quickly comprehend what is it you're trying to achieve. Because it really works well when people are able to interact, to even start clicking on the links to articulate what you want to help them, how you want to help them achieve their objectives. The thing is, as you kindly pointed out, that really keeping up with technology is a great challenge for us. So that's why we're looking towards structured data, because we believe that structured data will be a way to future-proof us in some sense. Because but structured data follows international data standards. It's interoperable with newer content management systems. It would at least ensure that besides the fact that I can future-proof my content, I can even use it to collaborate with other like-minded partners. So this is how we try to be as agile as possible, not building huge systems from the get-go, but things that can really be scalable for us. Yep.
Okay, so there's a question here from the audience. I think this is for Benedict. What is the challenges to convince organizations to use robots to replace existing docents? How big is the technology team on the project?
It was very easy, because we developed the two projects with the team, local team, and it is done for accessibility. So it's a very popular mission in our establishment. So it was almost a game. And you know, I insist that we do a lot of experimentation. We don't develop like in universities does. We don't. We just experiment. So how big is the technology team on the project? It's only one person because we work with a startup. And we just bring our sites and the team to and the public too.
Okay, perhaps I go back to something that Michelle had mentioned about how hardware goes obsolete very fast. So how does your science center perhaps prioritize what sort of hardware to use? And what sort of projects, considering that technology moves very fast? I mean, what sort of technology would do you learn from other, institutions as to what might work?
I don't have a really answer to that because it's a challenge, but that we need to. Maybe I didn't understand your question, but the obsolescence of technology we cannot fight against it. So the point is organizational thing. So we buy spares in advance, for instance, and also I think I was listening quite carefully to what Sean said about having kind of platform where you put your information and that can be used by different technologies. I think that's the right answer to this kind of continuous race against or behind technologies. So I was very interested by your thing.
Yeah, I think IT friends will understand it as software agnostic database solutions. The thing is, beyond assessing the software product roadmap, there's only so much we can prepare for. So really look at getting your databases in future-proof sort of solutions, of which we've seen that structured data is something that is increasingly happening for galleries, libraries, archives, and museums around the world. We are trying to actively get on that at the National Heritage Board. Yeah.
Before I go on to more pigeonhole questions, are there any questions from the audience? No? Okay. Okay. There's a question that perhaps the three speakers could answer. The effective and sustained use of digital interventions by audiences depend to some extent on facilitation by guides. How do institutions facilitate the use of technology by digital non-natives? Stumped.
With human and social intervention, I think we organize a mediation between non-digital technology and digital devices.
So we have staff on the floors, yes. For obviously that you need to help, but we shouldn't overemphasize the digital non-native problems because I think we are digital non-native, and we use our smartphone all the time. So it's much more a question of, before, when you develop your tool, you need to test your tool not only with kids, but also with their grandfather or grandmother, so that you can check if it is appropriate in terms of ergonomy. That's one thing. And the other thing, which is more interesting, I think, is that at least in my institution, the visiting group is a family, which means that there are always at least one digital native in the group. So the children can teach the parents or more often the grandparents how to use. And you have using those technologies, you have kind of co-education that is developed and can be very interesting.
Yeah, so really the human intervention is important. For example, when we launched Tango at the National Museum, it was still a guided tour where people will explain how to actually use the devices properly to view the augmented reality content. Yeah.
Okay, actually, this was related to another question, to share, how your respective organizations have used technology to engage and enrich the seniors. Presumably, they are less technologically inclined. Do you like to? Although this session is about digital, but,
yeah.
there seems to be a lot of questions about.
It has been already partly answered,
Yeah.
and what I can say is that there are other programs than exhibition in universal science, and for instance, there is one education program about coding and about use of computer for seniors. So it's a really targeted program so that we can help, but it goes quite slow.
So in the case of seniors where we have audio guides, the front of house staff does instruct them on how to use it in the quickest way possible, and already it is designed such that it's user-friendly enough for them to use. Yeah.
Any other questions? There was one more question, since we have a little bit more time, but one vote, but never mind. How do you maintain authenticity of the interaction with technology in the picture? What are the trade-offs? Surely something is lost or something is gained.
No, in a monument you have always the real state. So the picture is yes, it's front of you. So I don't see it is you bring back in the past. So the real is enough.
And for us, technology is authentic because technology is our object. So for us, it's really, I think, the core business.
We actually look at technology as a way to supplement or add on to experiences of our artifacts or places that you might not necessarily have. We are still of the thinking that the authentic on-site experience is still the best, but if we can't reach you, come to our websites or collections page to learn more about us. Yeah, so it's really supplementing the experience for us. Yeah.
Okay. All right then. So I would not stand in the way of a tea break because I know my colleagues here would love their coffee. So let's give them a big round of applause.
Thank you very much.